You're listening to Sarah Hagan Backstage, with interviews and insights from years inside the music industry. Join Sarah as she talks with masters of their crafts, finding out what makes them tick, both inside and outside of the music business.
Welcome to Sarah Hagan Backstage. My guest today, David Fingers Haynes, is a fantastic drummer with an incredible resume. He has played with Chaka Kahn, Prince, Stevie Wonder, Joe Zawinul, Mary J. Blige, Lee Ritenour, Frank Ocean, Arrested Development, and so many more. He is also known for his incredible finger drumming. He is basically the pioneer of finger drumming, hence his name, David Fingers Haynes. So we're going to talk about all of these things today, his technique and his equipment that he uses, and he's going to share some fun stories with us because he is full of some amazing stories from his time in the industry. So come along with me as I catch up with David Fingers Haynes. David, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so very much. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's been a really, really long time. I was trying to remember if it was the late 90s or early 2000s, something like that, around about that time.
I think early 2000s, like right when I first started working for Zildjian.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, but great. How have you been?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's for everybody. You know what? It's been a time of expansion.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm doing more recording than anything nowadays. Most people, it's kind of funny. A lot of people know the drumming side, but then there's also a side that know the electronic side of the finger drumming aspect of what I do. So I'm teaching in both areas because I have a practice room studio set up where I keep the drums set up and doing stuff with companies like Akai and also for Tune Track that makes Easy Drummer. So doing that pretty much keeps me busy because there really isn't that much work right now.
Right. Absolutely.
So, just had to learn to find other avenues of work.
Right. And you live in Germany, so you have been.
I live in Berlin.
And so it has been a different experience for you with different regulations and all of that, I'm sure, than in the US. But you have been pretty much in lockdown, right? So this has been a time for you to do things from home, which you're kind of set up for with the electronic side of things, for sure.
Well, I'm bouncing between. Right now, I'm presently in Warsaw, Poland. This is at my fiance's place. So I go between the two. And actually, things are a lot more open here.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I bounce between electronic and acoustic stuff. So it's kind of difficult though being away from family. I have to mention that. That's a challenge.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people have like this period in time has made a lot of people rethink like their proximity to family members. So I don't think you're alone in that, for sure.
Right. Prioritizing.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
I tell you what I do now is I ride the bike almost every day to the studio.
Amazing.
So let me see, what's a kilometer? We're talking about I don't know if a kilometer is longer than a mile, but I ride 10 kilometers a day, basically.
Yeah. So I think what is like 5 kilometers is like 3 miles. So.
Okay. Well, it's still a nice ride.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic.
Helps. Mm-hmm.
And I think, that's another thing that people have prioritized too in this time is exercise and health. And getting
Absolutely.
getting some,
Yeah.
musicians as
Yeah.
as we kind of live in the dark sometimes and
Mhm.
inside and all of that. But I think I don't know if you've seen like Aaron Spears on the Peloton and his bike riding and all of that. I feel like
Oh,
you
that's
know,
great. That's
running
great.
and bike riding has been
Great
a
to hear
thing,
that. Awesome.
right? I'm so glad
Awesome.
to
I'm
hear
really
that.
happy for him. Yeah, really happy for him. Yeah. I met Aaron years ago. Yeah. No, that's really important. You know, in these kind of times, you could just say, "Oh, let me just put on a movie and eat some chips or something like that." But you
Yes,
can't you can't do that.
right? I
Can't
know.
do
I
that,
feel like there was
especially
a lot of that during during quarantine.
yeah,
Um,
especially the older you get. You know,
right,
I'm
right.
50 now, 50. So
Amazing. That's
you
amazing. I
can't
feel
do
I
that.
feel like 40, 50 is just a great time in life when you've kind of like figured out who you are and are
Yeah.
like onto
Mhm.
other things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That's
Right. Absolutely.
fantastic. Well, I'm so glad that you're getting
Hmm.
out there and able to, travel a bit and spend
Yeah.
some time in Poland with your fiance, and that's
Yes.
so good. And I want to jump into
Hmm.
the whole
Hmm.
thing with finger drumming because
Okay.
your name, you can't say David Haynes without saying David Fingers Haynes, and it just like it's
Well.
amazing. It's just amazing to me
Hmm.
in getting to know you and your style of playing and your versatility. um it was always incredible to me because
Hmm.
there weren't really a lot of drummers doing what you were doing back then, and there still aren't really. But
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about what you do, especially on the pad. um
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, like so many other guests that you've had, they're all going to say, "I come from a musical family."
Yeah. That's important, right? Fostering
Right.
that in our kids.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. I came from a family of teachers, teachers, they were musicians, and of preachers. So,
Hmm.
like my dad was a preacher, but he sung operatic, like opera.
Wow.
My grandmother played organ in church. Okay. My mom sang, but she was a teacher. She had a master's in education, special education. Oh, and
Hmm.
my dad, while he was a preacher, he also had his PhD in psychology.
Okay.
All right. And actually, um, he went to school in Boston, BU,
Very
with
nice.
Martin Luther King Jr. in the late
Wow.
50s. They were
Wow.
friends. Yeah, I've got a big picture of that. And so before I was even thought of, the King family and my family basically moved to the Atlanta area.
That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. So uh, s- um, I have two brothers. One brother was a drummer named Daryl, and he was the one time I went to sneak on his drum set when I was 11. He was like, "Don't you ever touch my drums again." And the thing is, you mentioned a Ludwig, right? He had a blue sparkle Ludwig. I think there was like a 1970 or 71 um, with, I don't remember exactly what snare. It was an aluminum snare, I think, though, but just really classic bebop type kit, 18 by 14,
Hmm.
uh, 12, 14. And when the 70s came, he was telling me that don't touch my kit. But when the 70s came, everybody took the bottom heads off. And so when
Right.
he would load the kit up, he put it in the car and put it on the ground even, on the bearing edges,
Oh,
so that kit just got trashed, you know. Um, so I was like, okay, all right. So much for drums. I had I had a tough time with self esteem. My parents divorced,
mhm.
and when I was 16, I had a bout with depression, and to the point that I had to go to a hospital. I was at a hospital called Emerson North Hospital. And while I was there, that was in Ohio. That was when, at a point in 1984, I moved with my mom to Cincinnati. And I was so depressed that I wouldn't lift my head up. I wouldn't speak to anybody. And even though at that time I was into DJing.
Okay.
And yeah. And so while I was at the hospital, they tried everything. You take different tests, different medications, and all kinds of stuff. And so one guy had the idea to try music therapy with me.
Wow.
30 minutes of music. And the guy was a big jazz fan, a big fan of Jaco Pastorius's. And so I listened to that, and so I heard lots of Peter Erskine, because of the Word of Mouth album and
Right.
Weather Report, and and little did I know that one day I would actually get to play with Joe Zawinul in '97.
That's amazing.
So that's what happened. And when that summer of 1986, when I was let out, I was there for 3 months. My brother gave me a Yamaha. It was a Yamaha drum machine, but I don't remember. RX-11. Yeah.
Okay.
RX-11. And I was like, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want this thing. So I took it to a store, and there was another customer there that said, wow, you want to trade that in? And I was like, well, actually, I wanted to get it on some cymbals or something. And the guy said, well, hey, listen, I got another drum machine. We can trade, for like a week. If you like it, let me know. You can, And so he had an HR-16B from Alesis, which was the first 16-bit drum machine.
Okay.
So we traded. Then I called the guy back, and I couldn't reach him. It was like the phone was disconnected. So there I was with that machine. And so I played, and I started programming it, but I got frustrated with programming. I was like, man, I don't want to press the metronome, click, 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 and put each part in at different times. So I started to learn how to play the different styles of different drummers that I was listening to, different styles of music. That's how it developed, because at the same time, what I didn't mention was when I was a kid, my brothers had a band together. And so I used to hear them practice in the basement.
Right.
And that's why they were saying, don't touch my drum set.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard everything. And my brother Daryl, he worked at a record shop. What is that? A record,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So they used to give him tickets. So like he took me to see Earth, Wind and Fire when Les Groove came out. And it was amazing. So I was able to hear everything. They gave him promotional copies of music, and records. He's got over 1,000 records. So that's why I was able to hear some of everybody, and when from grade school, I started learning marching, and marching drums, concert band, and we had to play traditional style. And I don't do that stuff anymore. Traditional. What is this? But
right. But that was the style that you learned back then. And I think that's incredible that you actually started playing on the electronic pad.
I started on the pad years before I got my first drum set, but I started with sticks, learning rudiments in school and marching band.
Got it.
So that helped me. So what I did was I took the rudiments and then just put them around the pad. That's how that's what happened basically.
That's so great. I was wondering about that, if that was something, I feel like a lot of drummers start with acoustic drums,
Mhm.
and get into electronics almost as a necessity, right? Like
Yeah.
to play the things they need to play or to play the gigs that they need to play. But I just think it's so
Right.
interesting that you kind of started on the pad, although you were learning rudiments, but started recreating all of that music that you were hearing at the time in the,
Yes.
on those records.
Right. Right. And so much is coming back to me. See, I went to school. I went to a school also in Ohio called Central State University. And Moses, Dr. Moses, that was his name, was somewhere from the islands. I don't remember exactly where, Barbados or somewhere.
Mhm.
And he played steel pans very well. And so when I auditioned, because I wanted to be a music major, and he had me play a variety of styles on kit. And he said, sorry, you're not ready to be a major here at this university. And so I was like, okay. That was in 1989. All right. So
Wow.
then I started marching in the band, and then I found my way to Europe, where my oldest brother was, and who played sax, flute, piano, and he was a singer. And he played at a lot of different hotels and private parties and bars and cafes. Um, and he said, "You know what? Bring your drum machine and we'll do a duo."
Very
so,
cool.
so that's what happened. I started playing, and people were like, "What are you doing? What? How in the world are you doing that?" And so on. So
Yes.
that's what happened. And um, I started. I attended a music school called the Future Music School,
Hmm.
also in '92, in Aschaffenburg. Okay, that's in a part of Bavaria. And it was a 1 year intensive course. And the two guys who started that school graduated. They attended MI, Musicians Institute in California.
Yep.
Yeah, and so they took basically a similar curriculum, and started the school.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so when I took my final exam, no, sorry, the day before I took my final exam, I had a private job with my oldest brother, and I had a giant rack, 19-inch rack full of gear, and it fell off the lift of the stage, which was about, I don't know, 6 feet up off the ground, which fell on my big left toe
Oh no.
and cracked the toenail in half.
That's not
So
good.
that was the evening before I had to take my final exam
Oh
in school.
no.
So I took what I had to do. I aced the reading portion, but the other part was too painful for me to play on the high of my left foot, because I play open style, like
Hmm.
Lenny White, Dennis Chambers. No, sorry, not Dennis Chambers. Lenny White, Billy Cobham.
Hmm.
Left hand lead on the ride
Hmm.
primarily. Right hand setup though.
Right.
And so I had to. I managed to convince them to allow me to take the test again a week later, to allow
Oh,
for some
good.
healing. But I lost my airline ticket
Oh no. Oh my
to
gosh.
go back to America, and ended up having to sell some of my kit, my drum kit, in order to get a new ticket.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I just got a lot of information. A lot of things are coming, and maybe you can piece it back together. But
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, that it sounds like you overcame quite a bit for in your younger years, like all these things
yeah,
that had happened, but also like how great that you were over in Europe as
yeah,
a teen, right? You were college
hmm,
age,
yeah,
and getting a more like worldly view of things
yeah, yeah.
and studying in different places. I love that.
It,
And it's really interesting because when you play, whether it's on the pad or it's on acoustic drums, you can your style comes through. And I think it's
Mm,
really interesting, especially when you're playing on the pad, your feel is so
mm.
fluid. Like if your eyes are closed and you don't know that you're playing on a pad, you would never know you're playing on a pad. It sounds
Oh,
like
wow.
full acoustic kit. It's amazing.
Ah, wow. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I want to tell you how I got into the industry.
Yes,
And
please.
that was that came about because there was an annual field trip that at my school we used to go to, something called the drummers meeting in Koblenz. That's another part of
Mhm.
Bavaria in Germany. And the year that we went, the guy who was the host for that thing every year, I got to meet him that year that it went, 92 to 93. Yeah,
Mhm.
sometime during then. And they they saw some videos of what I was doing. And when I got back to the States in 94, 93, 94, there was oh, I got a call to go play the event, and it was the year that Dennis Chambers was there. Dennis
Oh, wow.
Chambers, yeah, Will Calhoun, and quite a few others were there. And so we connected there. And then when I got back to the States, I was living in Fairfax, Virginia then, and which was down the road basically from him. He's in Randallstown.
Mhm.
So we connected, and he invited me to his place, and we looked at old video footage of Tony Williams.
I love it.
And he had like just, I thought I was going to see a drum set up, not one. He said, man, last thing I want to do when I get home is play.
Yes, he still says that. Yes, he does.
Yeah, yeah. Because and I saw a whole bunch of snare drums, that he
Mhm.
had and everything. And so Dennis has been a big brother, and so I got my first tour because of Dennis. Dennis got a call in '95. I was back in Germany in '95, visiting my brother. Um, Dennis was playing with uh, John. Oh gosh, John, amazing jazz guitarist. I'm trying to remember his name right now. Um,
Um,
I don't remember. But
okay.
so on the break, we he got a call. He went to return the call from his pager.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yes.
pager. Yeah. So then the call was from Gary Thomas. Okay, he was a jazz saxophonist, and he asked him if it was a tour, if we could play a tour together. He said, "No, I'll be busy," but he recommended me. So that was how that was my entrance into touring. That was my first tour. Yep.
Wow. That's
And
incredible.
yeah, yeah, that was great. And Dante Winslow, by the way, was rapping and playing trumpet. If you don't know who Dante is, he's been playing um playing with a lot of the top pop artists out of LA for like a really long time.
Oh,
Uh,
fantastic. We'll
yeah.
we'll have to put
So
a link in the
mm,
description for him as well.
yeah. So that was '95. Then that year, I got my first artist endorsement when I went to the Music Messe. The Music Messe, as you know, it's like the NAMM show in
Mhm.
Anaheim, California. And
Yes, and
so
music messes in Frankfurt, Germany?
Frankfurt,
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt, Germany. Yeah. And so that's when I met Tina Clark.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when we met. And Tina, she's just been an amazing person, always friendly, was able to talk to her about everything. She was wonderful. And so that was how I got introduced to Zildjian became an artist in '95, and still with them. So happily
Very,
still
very
with them.
nice. Yeah, we
Yeah,
love Tina. Tina is
yeah,
amazing. And I don't know
yeah.
if you know, but she's now working for British Drum Company. So she's
Okay.
still in the
Hmm.
industry, doing great.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
British Drum Company was Premier Drums back in the day.
Mm.
And yeah,
Premiere. My first drum set was an XPK Premier drum set,
very nice.
and I used to set that up in at a gym in a back room where there was a washer and dryer.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was on a army base or Kaserne. They call them Kasernes over in Germany. That was my job. I was working at a gymnasium called Cash Gym.
Hmm.
So when everybody left, I would just shut the place down and set up the drums and play.
That is too funny. I love that. And
Yeah.
it's so I can't remember who it was I was talking to about this, but
Hmm.
how fantastic the sound of a washer and dryer are to play on, to bang on, to tap on. Like so I love
Yeah.
that you set up your drums near the washer and
Yeah.
dryer.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and then uh, let me see. You mentioned B. What's the name of this company? B.
British Drum Company.
British Drum Company. Okay. My first drum endorsement was with Premier, and
Very cool.
that was through a recommendation from Virgil Donati.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when he was with Premier back in the day,
Yes.
and yeah, so yeah, so it's funny how all these things are mixing, and that's why I tell younger guys it's always important to have to keep good relationships with people.
Absolutely.
It's like
Yes.
a round table effect.
Yes,
People,
yes, I say
yeah,
the same
absolutely.
thing all the time. I repeat
Hmm.
myself about that, but it really is this industry is all about the relationships.
Yeah,
Um, and if
absolutely.
you know, I mean, the
Hmm.
people that you just mentioned that that you surrounded yourself by or with and
Yeah,
continued to keep in touch with and keep up those relationships, that's what sustains you, no matter what you're doing
yes,
or who you're playing with or
yeah, right,
what
right.
stage of life you're in. You know,
Hmm.
it's that those relationships that are always there.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're at these events, that's where people are able to see you, and you're able to see a lot of people in bulk, and they can uh, and then a lot of things can happen for you. You know,
Hmm.
the, the music messa, for instance, was a lot of things happened from that, from being there.
Yes.
In '96, the year after that, I was there playing for Techniques. The DJ. I told you I
Yes.
was into DJing,
Yep.
right, a while back, and well, Techniques that year started making keyboards, and I played with a guy named Christoph Spindel, and on sax was Derek James, who played with Chaka Khan's band.
Hmm.
But at that time, she had three bands. She had a band in Germany, LA, one in New York. And so she used to live in Heidelberg for a little bit.
I didn't know that. That's really
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. And so I was hired to play at the Mesa for a week for Techniques.
Hmm.
And on my downtime, I just milled around and looked at other booths. And I went to Lexicon, and that's where I saw two ladies playing, one named Rhonda Smith and one named Kat Dyson.
Wow.
Hmm. And so they were just playing with some playback music and demonstrating effects from
Hmm.
Lexicon. And so we got to talk and hang out also, and went to after parties to play for like JBL and so on. And so that when the weekend came, Sheila E. and Ndugu Chancellor were playing.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, they were playing together, and so I got to speak to Sheila at the end of her performance. I said, for about 20 minutes, I said, "So what are your plans? Your future plans? What are you working on?" She said she wanted to have an all-women band. So told her about Rhonda Smith and Cat Dyson.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what happened. And around the same time, so she went and checked them out. Around the
Mm-hmm.
same time, Prince wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to have an all-woman band, and he called Sheila and asked if she would play with him again. She said, "No, I want to work on my own project." But she told him about Rhonda Smith and Cat Dyson.
There you go. That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so they went to the audition. They told him about me. So that's how I got to work with Prince.
It's so
At
incredible,
different
David.
times. Yeah,
Yeah.
relationships.
The relationships, exactly. And I love that story. That's like the perfect
Yeah,
example. And
yeah.
there's something about this industry that fosters that community kind of thing. And, it is
Yeah.
outside of the drumming world too, but inside of our little microcosm, inside of this drum industry, it's like, it is a place where like you become friends with Dennis Chambers and then he hooks you up with a gig and
Yeah,
vice
yeah,
versa. And I just feel like it's this really cooperative environment that we're also so lucky to
yeah,
be part of.
yeah. Absolutely. I tell people, a lot youngsters. I tell them, you know what? Everybody can play.
Mm,
Everybody has a level of skill. And nowadays, people do a lot of learning from what they see on YouTube, hearing what chops or what people are playing or playing
mhm,
in church.
mhm.
Um, but the main thing that people need to understand is not as much about what you know, but it's about when you display what you know. So it's about having the discipline to be able to play your part first. Your first function is to be the foundation for the band. If you're doing your own thing, then okay, play whatever. But at least come with that first.
That's great
And
advice.
especially if you have a lead singer, whatever the lead instrument is, it could be a saxophonist, flute player, whatever, flautist,
Mhm.
whatever. And I tell you what, when you hold back and wait, and just perform that function, then when the solo time comes, then people will really hear the difference. It won't be just like, oh, well, he already or she was already playing all over the place during the songs anyway, or during the show. Okay, now it's a solo. Okay, yeah, you already did that.
Right,
You know
right,
what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
That is really, really great advice. And,
Hmm.
so I think that's really valuable insight. And the part mixing it with the personality thing and the relationships thing and being there for other people, making those connections and they make them for you. I think it all kind of goes together.
Yeah.
And people such as yourself who have had these amazing careers over this, length of time. It's just, those two things are inherent in that.
Yeah, but it's really about that and returning emails,
That too. Yeah.
sending cards, and all of those things. Just communication.
Yeah, the communication part. That's a
That's it.
very, very good point. I think it's
Hmm.
um it's one of those things where
Hmm.
now where things are so quick, like text messaging and
Yeah,
Instagram messaging and things are so quick, you can lose track of it
yeah,
quickly, right? Um
definitely.
it
Yeah,
would feel like it was much simpler when it was just email back in the day and like
yeah,
people would communicate with you. And I say back in the day, but it really wasn't that long ago.
yeah.
But
When yeah, right, right.
right,
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
just email. Everything came through email. You had like one email
Yeah.
address, probably AOL
Hmm.
or Yahoo or something.
Yeah, right, right,
And
right,
it
right.
was so simple to
Yeah.
keep track of. And I find myself definitely multitasking back and forth between
Hmm.
Instagram and Facebook and the phone and email and multiple emails. So
Yeah, right.
it's harder now, but it is so important. The communication aspect is so important and it takes effort and it
Yeah,
takes time, to make sure you stay on top of it. But that's a
yeah.
great point as well.
Don't wait don't wait for people to give you work.
Mm.
Create work. Especially since we have these platforms and the ability to connect. Um, just do it. Connect with folks and send. Uh, you know, send your information around. Comment. You can leave comments on people's pages, even if they're like, okay, I don't know who that cat is. I have no
Hmm.
idea, because there are a lot of folks that may have, like, say, over 100,000 or plus followers. Of course, they're not going to check their DMs on the regular,
Sure,
you
sure.
know. But you can, another way to establish connection, positive connection, is just by commenting
Hmm.
on their work. You know,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true because that is it is no,
Mhm.
it is easy to notice that kind of thing when someone's being supportive of your art,
Yeah,
right? Of your creativity, of your music.
exactly.
And you see and
Yeah.
you will they will see that. So
Hmm.
that's a really
Yeah.
great point. And I agree with you. I mean, just the outreach, the effort to make the connections. And sometimes it's not easy to put yourself out there like that.
Yeah.
It's easier to wait for it to come to you, but you're going to miss opportunities if you do that because the opportunities are definitely out there, right? So,
Absolutely.
um, I find
Hmm.
myself in a lot of the work that I do making cold outreach, cold calls, cold emails, to someone
Yeah.
I might not know.
Yeah.
And at this point, that doesn't phase me, but I feel like when I was coming up, I would have been really nervous to do that. And
Hmm.
so I say the
Hmm.
same thing all the time. You just never know. You have to take the chance, make the
Absolutely.
connection, reach out. Something will come through for
Yeah.
sure.
And you know what? Another thing too, like your Rolodex, you may have a lot of phone numbers, a lot of contacts. So one thing I try to do is say, okay, I'm going to pick a couple people this week that I haven't spoken to in a long time,
Hmm.
and I'm just going to check on them. Hey, what's up? How you been? What's going on?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's something also that's good. Um, with talking about Prince, I want to talk. I
Yes,
have
please.
several different stories about him.
I would
Um,
love to hear.
there's uh, Dave Chappelle has done,
Yes.
I don't know how many uh, uh, skits about him playing basketball. Well, that's true. First of all, okay,
Yes.
it was myself, Kirk Smith, who's probably still his best friend, um, or was his best friend, I should say. It
Hmm.
was three of us: Prince, Kirk Smith, and myself, and we played 21. If you know what a game of 21 is in
Yes.
basketball, and we were at Chanhassen. Okay, Chanhassen is where Paisley Park is.
Okay.
Okay, and specifically, the street is called Audubon Road.
Okay.
That's where
I
it
did not know
is.
that.
Yeah, Audubon. Okay, not Audubon, like in
Hmm.
German. So um, there's a warehouse that he has where he did and a stage where he did "You Must Be the Most Beautiful Girl in the World,"
Hmm.
and that's the first stage where I got to play on. When I got there with Rhonda Smith and Cat Dyson, and oh man, I need to back up. Hold up. There's you remember? Of course, you know the movie The Matrix. I don't remember which
Yes.
one exactly, but when you there was one scene where Neo was loading up, was talking about how you can get weapons and blah blah. What do you need? And so you just had like this white wall and white room, and then everything was like a long rows of everything you need, like
Hmm. Hmm.
drums. So it was like that inside at Paisley in a room that he had, which it's not the vault, like the mysterious the vault where he has lots of music. I've never
Right.
been in that room, but I've been in his equipment room.
I bet that was very impressive.
And it's like I said, it's just like rows of drums, rows of guitar bass amps, rows of brass instruments, rows of, yeah. It was pretty crazy like that. And so
Yeah.
as I was going looking at the drum sets, I saw one that Michael Bland, who formerly played at the New Power Generation.
Hmm.
I saw the kit that was in one of their videos. I remember from one video, and then I saw a sky blue recording custom Yamaha. Mm, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yep. Birch recording custom, and I was like, oh man, I want that one. I want to play that one. So, and it was the one from the Love Sexy tour that
Hmm.
Sheila played.
Right, right.
So we got that one and set it up, and we just started playing. Myself, Rhonda, and Kat started playing. Kat Dyson,
Hmm.
and not to confuse with the Kat from even a time before. There was a singer and dancer
Yes.
for Prince, and so we started playing. And then the next thing I know, I heard this intercom because, like I said, it's a warehouse.
Yes.
And we're just like on this little stage and we're playing boom, whatever. And so, we're like, hey, hold on for a second. And it was so loud that I heard that, and it was Prince. And so we stopped, and he walked from the back of the room all the way to the front to the stage, and it was like time was in slow motion, and my heart was going, go, go, go. It's him.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
gosh, and I was so nervous. And yeah, he came up on stage, said, "Hey, nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you." Shook my hand. He was absolutely down to earth, and from that day on, that's how it was with us. He was just like that, you know.
I love that.
On the other side, because I talked about the basketball, right? On the
Yes.
other side, the back wall of that stage where "You Must Be the Most Beautiful Girl in the World" is a place where he would have live concerts, and had graffiti all over the ground that said "Love for One Another." He had a foundation called Love for One Another. And imagine this. He would, as I said, he would have concerts, and I played several of them with him while I was there,
Hmm.
um, at Paisley, and he would allow the public to come in and wouldn't charge a dime.
Wow.
Imagine a star, of his status, that would do something like that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, and so but then a certain part of that room, he had a basketball goal. These movable goals where you could, for a certain area where you could play. And
Hmm.
so that's where we had our game of 21. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. And on the back to the stage where I was talking about before, the original one, at the upper, what could be like upper office areas, you know,
Hmm.
um, he, he had a theater. And inside of that theater, we would watch different bands play. And the band we mostly watched was Graham Central Station. That was one of his favorite groups. That had Larry Graham,
Hmm.
who was the one that started slap bass.
Right.
And around that time, actually, uh, he became kind of a mentor for Prince and moved to the States, moved to Minneapolis, and was working on. Everything was happening at the same time. I mean, he was having the issue with Warner Brothers with the fight that he was having with that record company, and he created the sign, the symbol, the
Right, right. I
unpronounceable
was just going to
symbol.
say that. Yeah, that was the period where he was like the artist formerly known as Prince, so that,
Exactly,
yes, so he could make his own music, which
exactly.
was
He did.
brilliant.
Yep, yep, yep. He did the album called Emancipation.
Hmm.
And at the same time, he was producing an album for Chaka
Hmm.
called Come to My House. So, I got to sit sit beside him in Studio A, all right, in front of SSL 4000 console. I'm to his right, like I'm here and he's there. And he asked me about a part in the song, the horn lick. He said, "Man, do you think it should go like this, or you think it should go over the bar, a couple times?" And I was like sitting there, like, "Man, you asking my opinion?"
I love it.
Like I said, with me, I can't speak about everybody else, but I will say that there were a lot of technicians that were getting hired and fired, hired and fired quickly. But I wasn't under those under that bullseye, so I didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I know a lot of musicians that have played with Prince over the years and have had so many conversations, and some of the stories are funny, and some of the stories are just like, oh my goodness. But it's all like, it all serves the musical genius that he was. It's like he had his quirks. And I remember John Blackwell telling me the story about how they would go to Subway and he would have to order like an onion sandwich, and Prince insisted that he would eat like a lettuce and onion sandwich because it was the healthiest thing on the menu, and things like that. And Prince docking his pay for messing up in a song or playing something out of turn or that kind of thing. But like, it was always in service to this entity that he was, like this creative genius. And it's just amazing.
Since you mentioned John Blackwell, I'm glad you did. John and I are both from the small city, Columbia, South Carolina.
Yes, that's right.
My brother knows his dad, or knew his dad, and but I didn't know him before we met in 1998 in Minneapolis on tour, where he was playing with Patti LaBelle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
John was playing with Patti LaBelle. I was playing with Chaka Kahn. So they were trying to figure out how they were going to merge the sets together. And it was a tour that was sponsored by Cheerios.
Really? Wow.
But I didn't get any boxes of Cheerios. What's up with that?
Yeah, right. You deserved a lifetime supply, I think.
I've played for, have you heard of Haribo? You know what that is? Haribo?
Oh, yeah, like the gummy bears and...
Boom.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they're located in Germany. So I played playing with Till Brunner, who I currently play with in Germany. We played a private job for them. And they gave us a giant stock of big bear.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like a giant gummy bear?
A giant gummy bear. But they had different sections of different parts, different kinds of gummy bears.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I was going to say, like, you have to try not to eat all of that at once, probably.
No, I'm not. I don't have a sweet tooth like I did.
Me too.
So Minneapolis, right? It was the Cheerios tour with Patti LaBelle and Chaka Kahn. And that's where John and I met. And we had to share the same drum kit too, because like I said, everything was small. And so Chaka, as I don't know if you know it, but she plays drums.
I did know that. I did know that. Yes. So great.
Yeah. And so she had an idea. She was like, she was fighting with everybody because she wanted to do a part in the show where she was going to play. We were going to do a solo, her and I, during the show. So my time with Chaka was for 2 years. And she was amazing, like a mother-like figure, on and off. Okay, and for me, and she would always say stuff like, "Okay, all right, after everything's over, I'm cooking." Kind of like how Patti LaBelle was similar. So she would have try to have a kitchenette wherever we went.
Oh.
And one time I caught her trying to balance a washing machine. Yeah, she got on top of it on all fours. So I opened the laundry door. It's on top on all fours. And that's, you know, and her nickname was CK. People would call her CK. I
Uh-huh.
said, CK, what you doing? She said, boy, don't be coming up scaring me like that. So, you know how the
Yeah, so
drive
she
could
was so
walk.
she yeah. Oh my goodness. That's so funny. That's so funny. I'm
So,
glad she was okay and didn't
yeah.
harm herself.
No. She was no,
Aw.
she was fine. So yeah, I'm it's funny when we take the time and look back at all these different memories and
It's
and remember what
amazing.
we've been through, you know?
Yeah, and it leads
Yeah.
to, where you're at right now, which is you are
Mhm.
performing, right? And you're teaching.
Yeah.
And I'm
Mhm.
wondering, my question was, finger drumming and using electronics and the pads and everything, is that more common now?
Well, I'll tell you what has happened. I'm arguably the pioneer of finger drumming.
Mhm.
And I can remember the time, as I told you about when I was at school, at the Future Music School.
Mhm.
I had three teachers, uh, and they gave me a hard time. They said, "Man, put that toy away." Spielzeug. That's German for toy.
Mm.
Spielzeug. Put that Spielzeug away. You know, work on your set playing. So it wasn't, people didn't accept what I was doing then.
Mhm.
But what I think what got the push and acceptance for finger drumming is the combination of companies like TuneTrack developing ways of recording multi-level samples so that when you play, it sounds, based on the dynamics, it really sounds like a live drum.
Yes.
And then you got the beat making DJing community
Mhm.
so those communities have come together. So when you have products like the one I flashed earlier, this is the one I primarily play now. It's called
Mhm.
it's the MPC Live 2. So it's like you have a hard disk recorder in it because you got the hard disk at the bottom there.
Mhm.
A second one that you can put in there. You can mix different tracks that you may have. You got all the editing features and everything. So um, it's fun. And by the way, it's not plugged in.
Yes.
you know.
And
So
that's by Akai, right? That's an Akai
yeah, it's by
account?
Akai.
Mhm.
Yeah, by Akai. The forefathers of Akai was Lynn, the Lynn drum.
Okay.
Back to Prince.
There
You
you
know.
go.
Yeah. Prince was one of the guys that made the Lynn drum famous with that clap.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
the gosh, Controversy album several. It's an iconic clap sound that D'Angelo uses often. So
Yeah,
many others. Yeah.
that's so
So.
great. I just yeah, I'm
Mhm.
so impressed. I wanna show a clip actually of you playing, and anyone who's on YouTube can see what you're doing, and anyone who's listening on the
Okay.
podcast platform is going to hear you playing finger drums on the pad and not know that it's electronic because it
Oh, okay.
sounds so incredible. So let's listen to that and watch that now, and we'll come right back. So that was amazing, David. And I'm always so impressed by everything that you do. But just watching you play, and like I said, if you close your eyes, you don't even know that you're playing finger drums on a pad like that. And I'm just wondering, are the drums always in the same spot on the pad? That's a question I had for you.
Okay, great. That's a good question. Well, I kind of take initially, I started out on a pad, that RX-11 from Yamaha was 2 rows. So I had a different setup then.
Right.
And then I figured out a way to change my technique to a 4x4 grid. So it's 4x4, 4 rows of 4 buttons. So essentially what I have set up most of the times is a 5-piece kit. So I have 3 toms. I have 2 snare pads. I use one for ghost notes, and one is the main pad. But both pads, all my pads, respond with the dynamics. Okay, and so when I know that I'm going to play a track that has to have a side stick sound, type sound, then I'll have 2 toms. Or I'll keep the 3 toms and then use one less splash.
Gotcha.
So things like that. I have the ride cymbal, and I have 3 articulations of the ride. I have the tip, I have the bell, and I have, if you want to give the crash sound of the ride. And then like say a 16 and 18 crash, or high-low crash, whatever. And then 2 splashes, like a stack cymbal and side stick. And then 1 button for program changes. Because that's the other thing. I can change from kit to kit. From tune to tune. I can do that. So that's kind of cool. And actually, that's kind of how when I got hired to play for Frank Ocean at Coachella in 2012, his manager called me because he saw some of my videos and had that same idea. It's like, okay, here are all the samples for the individual songs, and then you can play the actual song, the sounds from the album.
Wow.
So that was the idea.
That is so cool. I love that. I mean, there's just so much that you can do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. And I know we're running out of time here, but I don't want to leave without talking about like what you're up to right now, what your plans are into the future.
Well, I'm working on developing a website, and more on the teaching aspect. I mean, I'm still gonna record and play, but I think education's where it's at. To be able to inform and help the next generation. That's what my focus is going to be.
I like that. I really like that. Well, we'll put some links in the description so that people can find you and see some more clips and everything. But you are on Instagram. I'll link your Instagram and Facebook, and then we'll look forward to the website. And I'm sure there are a bunch of people who are going to hear this and really be interested in learning more and maybe even taking some lessons. So
okay, awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you being here today, and we'll look forward to all the great things to come.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in today. Join us each Tuesday for new episodes of Sarah Hagan Backstage.